Hello, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I thought I will let you have a little peek at my logcat profiles in Tasker. I do love logcat for many reasons. It's an epic little feature that was brought into Tasker that allows you to trigger events to what occurs in the Android logs. Normally you need root for things like this, but thanks to some permission exports and granting them through ADB, Tasker can essentially become a debugging app. And by granting it things like android.permission.read underscore logs and android.permission.dump, we can access not just the logcat, but also as well dumpsys, so we can correlate events in logcat with dumpsys. And some examples, as I've actually got quite a handful in here. But if I go through them one by one, including the disabled, and we can tell you what they are. For example, LC Big Brother was my first attempt of detecting when the microphone or the camera was opened. The issue with this particular logcat entry was that it would only trigger when the app in question would start encoding or recording, if you wish, from your microphone or camera. So until the app started actually buffering data from it and encoding it using the media codec service, this wouldn't trigger. So, if something opens up your camera just to get a stream, or your microphone just to, poll it or something, you wouldn't know. So that was the first step. This can be used later on to determine what apps in actual fact are taking exclusive access of your camera or microphone to record from. So, all in good time. BioAuth fail. Basically, if you've got a fingerprint scanner and you use it too many times, to the point that biometric auth will basically get locked out. This simply just detects that and it'll tell me fingerprint auth failed, biometrics disabled. Then, if I've got my phone in my pocket or something, or it's down at the side of me and I'm trying to unlock it and and it fails for whatever reason. Fortunately, with my Sony Xperia XZP, the fingerprint scanner works 8 times out of 10. Newer, I don't know what it is with newer Xperia users, but they're having a lot of problems with their fingerprint scanner. Yeah, the XZP is probably about the last bloody decent Sony phone with a decent fingerprint scanner. But yeah, this is quite effective. So if I dab the wrong finger, or the finger just doesn't get recognised too many times, this will tell me, and I know then I need to unlock via another method. LCBT doohickey button. This is for one of the iTag1 tags. Now, a few apps actually work this particular tab because they're very generic. They're not proprietary. They're very generic GAT services that they provide. And in fact, NRF can work this particular iTag that I've got. I don't use it because it's difficult for Tasker to then engage with it. But from NRF, I can poll the battery level and as well send alarms to
button pressed.
What's it called? Now, what this particular one does is that when I press the button on the tag,
button pressed,
is that it will detect the button being pressed. Now, this is unique to the app in question, which is the iTag app. So once you've actually bonded the device, it will make an entry in the logcat that the button has actually in fact been pressed.
button pressed.
And that's what we're triggering for in there, so that now I can now use that button because the app itself only triggers to a double press. And if I do that,
button pressed, button pressed, button pressed, button pressed,
no, it's not going to do
button
it.
pressed, button pressed, button
For
pressed.
some reason, it's not actually triggering to the double. So anyway, I've got that feature in Tasker. No, it's not actually triggering. That's a bit strange. But yeah, I've got the single button press of this tag now linked. The next one is the connection. Now this actually uses the Bluetooth GAT service rather than the app itself. Excuse me. The side effect of this is if you have other BLE devices, this may also trigger to them as well. Therefore, in the task of this one, looking for specific values in the logcat event that appear to be present when this connects and disconnects. For example, when it connects, is that status in a bunch of arguments, status will equal 0 when it's connected, and when it's disconnected the status will be 8, and therefore I can then just change this nice little quick tile here, iTag. So if I disconnect the device, one moment, I'll just show this as an example. If I
Button pressed.
turn the tag off, in a few seconds that should, there you go, and if I turn the tag back on, it should go there you go, and it will then light up. So it's just a slightly better vindication of whether or not the tag. I am going to add an press to this because I do believe that Task can poll the battery level of the tag, or at least make it ring. Still trying to figure that out through the GAT services. I'm not very good with Java. Anyway, moving on to the next one. I got a little bit caught up in that one. The BT doohickey update is just whenever the connection is updated. The idea of this was to get the RSSI value so I could determine its distance. That one's still work in progress. It's not very reliable at the moment. LCBT radio on off. This one basically will trigger whenever something turns your Bluetooth on or off. So say you turn it off, but then an app later on turns it on, and you're like, what the actual is it? This will then access Dumpsys Bluetooth Manager. It will pull out the list of packages that last turn on or off Bluetooth, and in this particular case, it'll tell you the name of the last service or app or whatever it was that turned on or off your Bluetooth. It's not finding anything because nothing's turned off my Bluetooth at the moment. If I give you an example of this, do I really want to turn my Bluetooth on? No. You just take my word for it, it does work, it's very good. These two here are unique really to Sony Xperia users. If other phones have the additional camera app button, it may work for you too. But these essentially are really unique to Sony Xperia devices that have that additional camera button. When the screen is off, the camera button can only be used to launch the native Sony camera app, which it could start recording or take a photo automatically, which is a useful feature. Quick access to your camera. You don't even need to unlock your screen. You just very quickly fully depress the camera button, and your camera loads up and can start automatically filming or take a photo. For that, it's useful, but obviously, if you want to use something more, when the screen is off, this particular profile is used to detect the button press when it's off. This one is when the screen is on. So I've got two different potential actions based on the screen. And it is important on this one that you actually filter the actual logcat entry, because the event does create two different types of logcats, as you can see between the two. So that gives me full functionality of my camera button. Tasker does have the ability to detect that button press, but only when the screen is on, not when the screen is off. So the screen off one is a supplementary boner, if you wish. The next one, I have shared this, LC Camera Open. This is an improvement of before. So as soon as an app opens up your camera, whether it's just viewing the camera view, whether it's streaming, or whether it's recording, this profile would trigger. It's also as well linked to Dumpsys, which accesses media.camera, which should be a uniform service within Dumpsys across all Android. And it will look for the last app that accessed the camera, and it will log it and let you know when it was accessed. LC Contactless is now a mute. I need to update this. This was really to work around a bug with Barclays banking app. When you were using contactless, there was a bug from October that's only just now been fixed in February. So, October last year to February now, contactless payments, the app would crash when you made a contactless payment, which kind of made it counterintuitive. So the idea of this was to log whenever contactless was used on my phone, so that I could then record the date and time in which it was accessed, and also as well use auto location to find a point of interest. So basically, I know where I use this. When I use my contactless and tap, it'll say you use contactless near or at Tesco Express or wherever the hell I was. Now, these first three actions were to mitigate the bug because for some reason, as I stated, it killed the app when you made contactless. The app just crashed, it forced closed, and then you get the little dialogue, report this error, close or wait. So what this basically did is whenever contactless was made, it just launched the Barclays app, waited 3 seconds, and then hit the home button. And this prevented the app from crashing. It was a very weird one. It doesn't work at the moment now. I need to update or change it because Barclays have made another update to the app. Thanks to this particular profile, I was able to actually diagnose the reason why the app was crashing, and it only took Barclays, November, December, January, February, 4 months to fix it. But they did give me about £150 in compensation because of the bullshit it concerned, so I'm not really too bothered. Well, I was when it wasn't working, but when they gave me 150 quid as by way of an apology, the annoyance it caused suddenly meant nothing. So considering their app was shit, they do the right thing. And I mean, I was only expecting an apology and maybe a £10 or £15 credit as a gesture of goodwill, not 150 quid. Anyway, moving on. Thank you, Barclays. I mean, your app's crap, but you do make it right at the end of the day. LC fingerprint detection. I should imagine a lot of people now have this. This basically just looks for when you use your biometrics and it's successful. So then what it'll do, I've got all my values here. These are the values that different fingers that I've used. I've created another array just to correlate what that fingerprint is. So the array entries here, my right thumb, left thumb, right index, left index. Excuse me again. Oh God, got lurgy coming on. I would suspect it's coronavirus, but it's just the bloody flu. Hypochondriac does not exist here. So yeah, there's all my fingerprint IDs mapped to a variable, so I know which finger it is. And all this basically does, it will just set it to a global variable of what last finger used, and I can use that global variable as a state profile to determine what to do. For example, if I open my banking app and it's not opened by my preferred finger, it can throw my banking app out. For example, it would just hit home. So, if I want to open my banking app and I only want to access it through a specific finger, if that finger's not used, last use finger obviously comes up and it'll notice Barclays or some other app is running and go, no, and just hit home, preventing access to that device. For example, if I'm asleep and someone uses my finger to unlock something on my phone. Yeah, the idea is to also as well log them. I've not done that in here. I'm actually very surprised about that I've not actually logged it, just to say which finger unlocked the phone or did X, Y, or Z at a particular time. LC Finksky updates. Now, this one I particularly like. Now, whilst Tasker does have the ability to log app updates and installs, it does work for 99.9% of the stuff on Android, but I don't know if you've noticed that every now and again you'll get this little... You may get the notification installing Play Library updates and stuff like that, which is part of Play Protect and Safety Net. Now, this will log every single app that Finksky updates or installs. And this is used as part of my app tracker profile. So basically, whenever an app, either it's Google Play services or Google Play, which do silently update in the background despite your configuration, Google Play Services is quite notorious. I've had an update for this before and then been plagued with problems and couldn't correlate it. So one day my phone is working, next day the battery is being literally raped. And you've got no correlation. It's like, well, I've not made no changes to my phone. Yesterday it was fine, today it's acting up like a piece of crap, and then maybe 2 or 3 days later it starts acting normally again. Now I've attributed this both on it was actually due to Wear OS that I managed to attribute this, is that I had an app that monitored all the app updates and whatnot, and it also as well logged Google Play services being updated, and I noticed that my watch would start lagging out on a few occasions after a Google Play services update. When putting those two together, I thought, well, I've been having similar behaviour on my phone, so I now log these kind of app updates on my phone. It integrates with my app categories project, which I shared before. So whenever you install or download an app, it just creates a folder on your internal flash of all the apps you've installed, the category in which they appear in under Google Play by using Google Play's own store for all the categories, and basically just logs all the apps that you install and update just to make information easier to find. I mean, from this I can even now create a bar chart of the type of apps I've got installed, like productivity, finance, music and all the rest of that. LCG Assist is to detect whenever the Google Assistant has been called up, whether through long press home or from the hot word that may be used. All I've got this doing is vibrating like mad because occasionally somehow I trigger Google Assistant in my pocket. The idea is that just to vibrate like mad in a unique way, and I think, hey, hold on a minute, what's going on here? I never said nothing. Oh wait, somehow my screen unlocked and long pressed home. So yeah, that log's basically just this also as well can be used to throw Assistant out the way and launch something like Auto Voice. So you can instead of using Auto Voice as your assistant, because whenever I do that, is after the first or second hot word trigger, it just stops triggering. So I just leave Google Assistant to do it, use this, and if I want Auto Voice, depending on certain conditions, task is input, can throw Assistant out the way and do whatever it is I want to do. Google App Bug Detection, this is starting to become more and more unique to me, although I've not yet experienced it this year. I normally have this late January, early February, as they released a new Android initial beta, or DP1 as they call it, Developer Preview 1. However, I've not yet experienced it this year. Touch fucking wood that they've actually eliminated it, because this, believe it or not, was the exact same logs I was getting in 2017 when I first spotted this bug. I just never thought of correlating it. And it wasn't until last year that I was hit by the bug again. I decided to get to the bottom of it, and when I discovered this being flooded in my logs, task 174 failed or timed out, I went and checked my Google Plus checkout. Just before they closed it, I did a Google checkout of my Google Plus data. And alas, yes, it was task 174 failed or timed out was the error I was getting back then. If you Google that error, you'll find someone on Stack Exchange with a similar issue around about the same time. Very curious, that one. That it was the same error across the board. So this is my Google App Detection bug. I can occasionally trigger this by disconnecting and reconnecting a Bluetooth device. However, as I stated this year so far, I've not even been able to trip it. No, that's a fib. Once. Normally, if I disconnect my Huawei 2 watch or reconnect it, it will trip it, but it's not. It's only done it once so far this year, so it looks like the bug may actually be quashed, but that's there just to give me an early heads up. What it will do when it's triggered, if it only happens once or twice, I'll get a notification. If it happens more than twice, 3 times, if it happens more than 3 times, it will log it. Just so that I've got, some kind of correlation. LC Keyboard Detect is an auto input replacement to detect when the keyboard is in focus and when it's lost focus. This is so that I can do things like this. If I bring up the keyboard entry, I then get my left and right arrows either side of my recents and back button, and this just allows me to navigate between certain menus. Now, heads up on this, auto input is faster for this, so I may go back to that at some point. LC Location Detect was intended to do the same as like the microphone and camera detect, determine what app was last responsible for accessing your location services. This isn't the correct component. This component seems to be for something specific, so I've got to fine tune that one. LC Long Power, actually it doesn't detect long power press buttons, it just detects all presses of the power button. I don't know why I still got that enabled. It's doing nothing, so it's irrelevant at the moment. But the idea of this is that I know when my power button is pressed. LC Media Detect is to detect when something is playing through your speaker, so whether it's a notification or a music app or whatever. This will then log whatever did that by using dump sys, checks the media session service, and then we'll just simply pull the most recent app that's at the top of the list, which would be the last app that used the service. Very good for determining if, for example, you've got a bad app that's doing weird adverts. Is it, this with a couple of other profiles, you can detect what's doing it. LC Mic Open is the other one that I've shared, Tinfoil Hat Project. So as soon as something polls the microphone, it doesn't necessarily have to open the microphone. It just has to poll it just to determine whether the microphone's there, and it supports certain channels and features such as the camcorder channel or call channel or whatever channel it may be using, and the bit rate. So I'll give you an example. BVR or quick video recorder, for example, when it's got the draw over other apps permission, even if you force close it, because of that permission, the service will occasionally restart. And when the service does restart, it will just simply poll your audio policy manager and other manager systems just to see whether or not the camera and microphone is there. So this will log anything that just simply checks whether or not your microphone supports something. So any app that would potentially access your microphone, this logs. This in actual fact is probably one of the most prolific ones, because it logs every single app that even just polls your microphone, whether it's listening in on it or not. So that's kind of an epic one, that one. I actually thought that a couple of apps, AZ Screen Recorder and Quick Video Recorder, up to no good, because every few minutes, like half an hour intervals, a couple of times, it would poll the microphone. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? And it wasn't until I looked into it. First of all, I contacted the developer of Quick Video Recorder, and just like, I'm not concerned. I'm just curious. He couldn't understand it, and I thought, right, there's got to be a genuine reason for this, because the app doesn't talk to the internet. The only time it talks to the internet is to check to make sure that my in-app purchase is valid. So I was like, well, it's access to the microphone, but it's not sending anything. It's not sending anything onto the internet. So I was like, right, so that's obviously not nefarious. There's a reason for that, and I correlated it because Quick Video Recorder is power exempted and has draw over other apps permission. Android will occasionally restart the service, and obviously as the service restarts, the service wants to check to make sure you've got microphone and cameras available, so it knows how to work. So if it wasn't for that, I would have suspected something nefarious. So there you go. That's an advantage of it, is that you can correlate things. LC Network Change is a location permission free method of getting information of when you've connected or disconnected from a Wi-Fi or cell network. You can also as well extract things like the cell ID and the Wi-Fi name and signal strength and channel all from this. This just basically gives me a very simple heads up of whether or not Wi-Fi was connected, disconnected, or mobile was connected or disconnected. I've got it disabled at the moment because I've got other plans for that, and I can't remember what it was, but I have got other plans for that. LCOOM is merely an attempt at monitoring Activity Manager killing apps under an OOM situation. It does need massive improvement because App Manager will kill apps properly that no longer need to be running. So this can fire quite a lot of times, probably sometimes too many. So that's a work in progress. That's why I've not shared it. I like to test these things for at least a few days before I go and share them, just so that I know that A, they work, and B, they're not going to cause additional problems. LC overlays is obviously for detecting the last time an app drew over your display. Now this can be useful because some apps can produce a transparent overlay, or an overlay that looks like your desktop or a menu, and you could potentially be tap jacked. Whilst Android has mitigated most of the tap jacking problems, it doesn't mitigate it against, say, another app that you may use. I don't know, a home automation app. Excuse me. They can mimic a home automation app's login screen saying that, I don't know, for example, EWE Link or Smart Life or any home app that you use, a malicious app could produce an overlay that looks like this app, and it make it look like that that you've logged out, and then for you to log in, and the overlay then steal your login details. So the idea of this is to tell you when an app is drawing over your display, because any app like EWE Link or Smart Life, if it does expire the session and it requires you to log in, it won't be done in an overlay, it will be done in an activity. So if an overlay wants you to enter your credential details, it's not going to happen. Now this is the overlay ID, so all overlays that are in Dumpsys Dumpsys activities, this will be the ID of all overlays. Each different window type has a different ID, so this one finds all the ones and then will just basically log the last app, the most recent app that drew over your display. Very useful. And last but not least, vibrate detect. This simply, whenever a vibration occurs, just to simply find out what app did it and log it. And you're probably thinking, well, what's the benefit of all these? Well, Tasker can now be used as a security app, as an intrusion detection system, if you wish, or a heads-up firewall, so that you can monitor what things are doing. Now, with Tasker detecting some of these things, it can mitigate them. For example, with the fingerprint scanner to determine which finger I use to log into. For example, if I use the wrong finger to log into my banking app, Tasker can throw the banking app away. It can close it by going back to home screen, making access to the banking app unusable until they use the correct finger. And the chance of them lifting up one hand to put the fingerprint in it. So there you go. Tasker can also as well be used as a firewall to detect these events and then take action in accordance too. So this is just a handful of the tinfoil hat projects. Some of the things that you can see in a bigger project. I'm going to literally make this entire project an app that a user can install, grant the two permissions of read logs and Dumpsys. They're the only permissions that they'll need, and this will basically deep dive and investigate everything that's going on and take action that's necessary. So yeah, that's all my logcat. I do have quite a few tasks in here as well, but they're mostly correlated to the thing, to the project. And as a result, I've made a wallpaper using Wallpapers Unlimited by Android Slide. The moment, I mean, you can use KLWP for this as well. I do like KLWP, but where I'm a bit of a watchmaker whore, I do love Wallpapers Unlimited because it's basically a full screen wallpaper that is that's basically watchmakers. All the lure and the fancy stuff that I normally do in my watches, I'm now doing on the wallpaper with simplicity and familiarity. So as you can see, camera, trusted face, mic, AZ screen recorder, because obviously I'm your screen recording, speaker with system UI, vibrate with Android system, and last overlay was auto tools. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, lots of fun. Tasker as your guardian. Enjoy.